Okay, the paint is dried on the tubes. They look pretty good all the way around. Now the reason we painted that is just so that it hides any brass through the carbon fiber. So this is some carbon fiber. Now this sort of works like the old Chinese finger handcuffs. So this is flat, so you want to be able to open this up. The first time I tried it, I used a pencil to try and open it up, but it didn't work out. So you see how that sprays out pretty good? So what we want to do is, I'm just using a Sharpie to round it over in the front. You can use a dowel, just make sure it's rounded. And you're just going to feed that into it, just to open that up. And I'm probably going to use about 10 inches or so, just because you lose so much fray on both sides. So I'd rather, and if you pull on that, you can see it already grips it pretty good. So you're gonna wanna feed that in there, and then grab it from the back end, and then push the whole thing off from the back side. Don't pull on it, otherwise it's gonna shrink around it. So while that is open right here, I'm going to insert one of the small end first down the tube. I'm just going to feed that down a bit. I'm not going to pay too much attention to how much I'm using or not using. And then we'll do the same thing with the other tube. And I probably want to leave a little bit of room in between it. But maybe an inch, inch and a half. Now that's already pinched together, so I want to feed the back side through a little bit more on the bottom. And then you're also going to want to leave enough room to clamp that to something to hold it in place. So I'm going to extend this out a little bit more. Just want to make sure you keep those ends tight so that when you clamp it, you're not going to have anything open up on you. And you want to have enough room on this side to clamp it to something. And to clamp it, I'm just using these spring clamps like you saw in one of the other videos that I've done, my segmented videos. And then before you start to clamp or glue anything, make sure the beads here, or not the beads, but the weaving, the herringbone pattern is straight. So you only pretty much have one shot at it. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap in between, about an inch, inch and a half maybe, for the bottom end. And that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to cut probably right about there, another distance, so that's about 2 inches. You can use a regular pair of scissors. I'm just using these hobby scissors to cut because that's what I have right here next to me. So that cuts it really simply. Okay, then we'll glue these up next. Okay, I'm using on the edge of my bandsaw just a couple of quick grips. Just clamp down on the side. I'm going to do the first one, then the second one. Probably about 10 inches apart. Just going to get a rough measurement that looks kind of good. I'm going to take the spring clamp on one side. I'm just going to clamp that in place. And the other one, I'm just going to clamp, holding it in place. You can see it okay. Okay. So now it's got some sag in here, so what I want to do is take that slack out of the sag. I'm going to, whoops. So that's kind of tight, and you can see the pattern here on the fiber. Just make sure that that's straight, and that looks pretty good. So we're going to use some gloves. those on. And normally I would do this outside because of the fumes, but it's really windy outside today, so I'm not gonna, I'm using thin CA glue. I'm not gonna use an accelerator. I'm gonna start from one end, work my way down, and then I wanna go all the way through to the fibers on both sides so that those don't expand when you cut them loose. Put a generous amount. Now you don't want them dripping off the bottom. And you're just gonna massage that wetness from the CA glue. Make sure it's thoroughly soaked in. But make sure it's not, and see, that's why you're wearing gloves, because they're already stuck together. And nothing's dripping off the bottom, so that looks good. It's already starting to burn my eyes. Then we'll just let that cure over the next couple days, and we'll let the gas off of that. Okay, this is what that piece looks like. I had actually did one earlier, and the first one I didn't have as much of a gap as this one did here. So anyway, you're going to take these curved RC body scissors. You're just going to cut right through there. Trim the other end off. Okay, then you're going to stick the nose in and then slowly trim around. And you want the left hand or right hand scissors, whatever, because of the curve on it, it's going to get you right against that tube on the fibers. So as you see right here, you're just working your way around it, right up against the brass. So again, just stick it right in and start cutting and rotating at the same time. It's not super hard, but they cut pretty good. Just take your time with it, a little patience, and do that for both sides. You can leave a little bit of a hanging out, and when you'll just, like, I'm going to leave a little bit on the ends right there. You can kind of see it, and we'll just sand those flush